Fear is more reliable than love, not because it is cruel, but because it is honest. Love is a promise made by emotion. Fear is a contract enforced by reality. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology tried to soften it, rename it, or deny it. Power does not rest on affection, it rests on consequences. And consequences are remembered long after feelings fade. You have been taught the opposite. You were raised to believe that being liked creates loyalty, that kindness earns protection, that warmth builds stability. That belief is not noble, it is naive. Love is conditional. Love survives only while it is convenient. The moment love demands sacrifice, it weakens. Fear does not negotiate. Fear does not require belief. Fear simply works. Look closely at your own life. The people who praise you disappear the moment you lose leverage. The people who admire you turn indifferent when you stop rewarding them. Love evaporates under pressure. Fear concentrates it. Fear sharpens attention. Fear disciplines behavior. Fear anchors hierarchy. This is uncomfortable because it exposes a painful truth about human nature. People do not follow those they love when survival is at stake. They follow those who control outcomes. They obey those who can withhold, punish, or remove. This is not cynicism. This is biology. Your nervous system is not wired for romance. It is wired for threat detection. Long before language, law, or morality, the human brain evolved to ask one question: what can hurt me? The answer to that question governs behavior more reliably than any moral code. Fear imprints faster than pleasure. Fear lasts longer than gratitude. Fear reshapes memory itself. Love asks, fear commands. This is why leaders who rely on affection must constantly perform. They must reassure, explain, charm, and maintain approval. The moment they falter, the structure collapses. Leaders who command fear do not perform, they exist. Their presence alone alters behavior. Their silence speaks louder than speeches. Their disapproval is felt before it is expressed. You have seen this dynamic everywhere, even if you never named it. The boss everyone likes is ignored. The boss everyone fears is obeyed. The teacher students adore is tested. The teacher students fear is respected. The ruler who seeks love must beg for loyalty. The ruler who inspires fear receives it without asking. This does not mean brutality. That is a misunderstanding for the weak-minded. Machiavelli never advocated chaos, he advocated control. Fear is not rage, fear is precision. It is the quiet awareness that crossing a boundary carries consequences. It is the invisible fence that shapes behavior without constant enforcement. Love blurs boundaries, fear defines them. You may resist this because you want to believe you are different, more evolved, more moral, more enlightened. That resistance is the final illusion standing between you and clarity. When pressure rises, when resources shrink, when status is threatened, people revert. They always revert. And in those moments, love becomes a liability. Fear creates predictability. Predictability creates power. Understand this, and the social world reorganizes itself in your mind. You stop chasing approval. You stop explaining yourself. You stop leaking authority through overexposure and emotional accessibility. You begin to see silence as leverage, distance as control, restraint as dominance. But here is the danger, and it is subtle. Those who wield fear without understanding become tyrants, not rulers. They provoke rebellion instead of obedience. They mistake intimidation for authority and noise for strength. That error is fatal. Because fear must be calibrated, it must be restrained, It must be implied more often than exercised. And this is where the real lesson begins. Fear, when misunderstood, turns against its owner. When overused, it dulls. When made theatrical, it invites challenge. This is why weak men either reject fear entirely or abuse it clumsily. They sense its power, but lack the discipline to control it. Machiavelli's insight was never about terror. It was about asymmetry, the imbalance between what you might do and what others dare to risk. Fear works best when it is quiet. The human mind is not most obedient when it is screaming. It is most obedient when it is calculating. When people do not know exactly where the line is, but they are certain it exists. When they sense restraint rather than chaos. This uncertainty keeps them alert. It forces self-regulation. They police themselves for you. This is why love fails completely. Love requires constant reassurance. It must be fed. It must be proven. The moment you withdraw warmth, people interpret it as betrayal. Fear, on the other hand, grows stronger in absence. Silence amplifies it. Distance sharpens it. What you do not say becomes heavier than what you do say. Predators understand this instinctively. They do not chase constantly. They observe. They wait. They let the environment do half the work. Prey exhausts itself with anxiety long before the strike. Human hierarchies follow the same pattern. Those at the top do not explain themselves endlessly. They let uncertainty discipline behavior. This is why the most powerful individuals often appear calm, minimal, and emotionally contained, not because they lack feeling, but because emotional exposure dissolves authority. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to test. The more accessible you are, the more you invite invasion. Fear thrives on restraint. At a biological level, fear bypasses reason. Love does not. Love must persuade the conscious mind. Fear speaks directly to the nervous system. It tightens muscles. It narrows focus. It accelerates obedience. You do not argue with fear. You adjust to it. You adapt. You comply. This is why fear shapes behavior faster than ideology, morality, or inspiration. You can convince someone to love you only if they want to be convinced. You can make someone fear you regardless of their beliefs. This is not about cruelty. It is about leverage. Leverage is the core of power. The mistake most people make is believing fear must be loud to be effective. They raise their voice. They threaten openly. They display dominance theatrically. In doing so, they reveal insecurity. True fear does not announce itself. It is felt before it is understood. It is the awareness that you control access, outcomes, or consequences, and that you do so without emotion. Emotion signals instability. Instability invites challenge. Notice how quickly people test boundaries when they sense emotional volatility. Anger excites them. Desperation emboldens them. Excessive warmth invites exploitation. Calm deters all of it. Calm suggests preparation. Calm suggests options. Calm suggests you do not need them as much as they need you. This asymmetry is everything. Fear does not require you to be cruel. It requires you to be willing. Willing to withdraw. Willing to deny. Willing to enforce when necessary. Most people fail here. They want the appearance of authority without the cost of maintaining it. They want obedience without consequences. That contradiction exposes them, and once exposed, they are finished. Because the moment people realize there is no price for crossing you, love evaporates instantly. Respect follows it out the door. What remains is contempt disguised as politeness. Fear prevents that collapse. But there is a deeper layer still, one that separates rulers from enforcers,
one that determines whether fear binds people to you or drives them away. That layer is perception.
Perception is the battlefield where fear is either refined into authority or degraded into resentment. People do not react to what you are. They react to what they believe you are capable of. This distinction is everything. Power lives in imagination before it ever manifests in action. A ruler who relies on force alone must constantly prove it. A ruler who controls perception rarely needs to act at all. Fear is not created by constant punishment. It is created by selective enforcement, by rarity, by the understanding that when action comes, it is decisive and final. The human mind fills silence with imagination, and imagination is always more terrifying than reality. This is why restraint multiplies power. It allows others to do the work for you. Love destroys this dynamic. Love demands transparency. Love invites familiarity. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort dissolves hierarchy. Once people feel emotionally equal to you, they feel entitled to you. They begin to negotiate. They begin to test. They begin to take liberties. Fear halts this progression before it begins. This is why Machiavelli warned that love is fragile, not because affection is useless, but because it collapses under self-interest. People love you as long as loving you costs them nothing. The moment it does, their loyalty fractures. Fear does not fracture. Fear consolidates. The reason is simple. Fear aligns with self-preservation. Love competes with it. Under pressure, the mind does not ask who it admires. It asks who controls risk, who can protect or destroy, who can grant access or deny survival. This is why fear produces obedience even among those who despise you. Love cannot do that. Love requires agreement. Fear requires awareness. This does not mean you must be hated. Hatred is noisy. Hatred invites coalition. Hatred provokes rebellion. The goal is not to be loathed. The goal is to be unchallengeable, to exist as a fixed point in the environment, like gravity, not emotional, not reactive, simply there. This is where most fail. They confuse fear with hostility. They seek to dominate emotionally instead of structurally. They humiliate instead of limit. They lash out instead of withdrawing resources. These are the actions of insecure men who crave validation through intimidation. They create enemies because they need witnesses. True power does not need witnesses. True fear is impersonal. It feels inevitable, not vindictive. It is enforced through systems, patterns, and consistency. When people know that crossing you leads to predictable loss, they adapt. They do not rebel. Rebellion is fueled by perceived injustice and emotional volatility. Predictability neutralizes both. This is the hidden elegance of fear. It simplifies the social environment. It removes ambiguity. It trains behavior without constant supervision. People learn where they stand, what they can touch, and what they must never approach. Love complicates everything. It blurs lines. It creates expectations. It invites emotional bargaining. And when expectations are not met, love mutates into betrayal faster than fear ever does. The most dangerous moment for any leader is when they try to convert fear into love. This is when boundaries soften. This is when exceptions are made. This is when weakness is exposed under the disguise of generosity. Once people sense that consequences are negotiable, fear dissolves. And once fear dissolves, nothing replaces it. What follows is not loyalty. It is opportunism. Understanding this shifts how you move through the world. You stop performing goodness. You stop over-explaining decisions. You stop seeking emotional consensus. You let outcomes speak.
You let absence teach. You let structure do the work emotion never could. But there is still one misconception left to destroy, the most seductive one, the belief that fear and love cannot coexist. They can, but only in a specific order.
Fear and love can coexist, but only when fear comes first. This order is not negotiable. When love precedes fear, it erodes authority. When fear precedes love, it stabilizes it. This is the inversion most people never grasp. When people fear losing you, your approval gains weight. When they never feared you in the first place, your approval is meaningless. Love that grows on top of fear is respect. Love that exists without fear is sentiment. Sentiment is fragile. Respect endures. Respect survives disagreement. Respect survives pressure. Respect survives scarcity. Sentiment does not. This is why those at the top are often described as cold, distant, or intimidating before they are admired. Their presence establishes boundaries. Their restraint creates gravity. Only after this structure is in place does loyalty become possible. Without it, loyalty is just emotional convenience. Understand this sequence, and you understand why powerful figures rarely reveal their warmth early. Warmth is currency. Currency is only valuable when it is scarce. If everyone has access to you, access loses value. If your approval is freely given, it becomes invisible. Fear creates scarcity. Scarcity creates value. Psychologically, this works because the human mind seeks stability. Fear provides a stable reference point. It tells people where the edge is. Once that edge is understood, people relax within it. They may even feel safer. Paradoxical, but true. Clear boundaries reduce anxiety more effectively than constant reassurance. This is why strict parents often raise calmer children than permissive ones. This is why rigid systems outlast flexible ones. This is why institutions survive longer than friendships. Structure outperforms affection every time. Love without fear creates entitlement. Fear without love creates distance. Fear followed by controlled warmth creates allegiance. This warmth must never erase the original asymmetry. It must feel earned, not owed, conditional, not automatic. When people believe your approval is a privilege, they guard it. When they believe it is a right, they abuse it. Most people fail here because they crave to be seen as good. They want to be liked more than they want to be respected. This desire exposes them. It makes them predictable. It makes them manipulable. The world does not reward those who seek approval. It consumes them. You must decide what role you want to occupy. The reassuring presence people lean on emotionally, or the immovable force they orient themselves around. One is comforting, the other is powerful. Comfort does not shape outcomes. Power does. Fear also protects you. It filters opportunists. It repels parasites. It ensures that those who remain do so intentionally. Love attracts everyone. Fear selects. This selection is essential. Without it, you are surrounded by those who drain you, test you, and disappear when you are no longer useful. Fear creates scarcity. Scarcity creates value. None of this requires cruelty. Cruelty is emotional. Power is strategic. Cruelty seeks reaction. Power seeks compliance. The moment you need to hurt someone to feel in control, you have already lost control. The final discipline is internal. You must be willing to be misunderstood. Feared figures are rarely praised openly. They are respected privately. If you need applause, fear will always escape you. If you need validation, love will always betray you. And this leads to the final realization. The reason fear is more reliable than love is not because people are evil, but because people are consistent. They follow incentives. They respond to consequences. They adapt to structure.
The question is no longer whether fear works. The question is whether you are capable of wielding it.
Fear is not something you display, it is something you embody. By the time you need to assert it verbally, it is already weakened. The highest form of fear is environmental. It is embedded into how people think around you, not how you threaten them. This is the final refinement, the difference between those who occasionally intimidate and those who permanently dominate. When fear is embodied, people adjust before conflict ever appears. They choose their words carefully. They hesitate before crossing lines. They calculate risk without being prompted. You are no longer reacting to behavior. You are shaping it in advance. This is the position Machiavelli wrote for rulers, not bullies. At this level, you do not need to punish often. You only need to punish correctly. Once, publicly enough to be known, privately enough to avoid spectacle. The lesson travels faster than the action ever could. Fear spreads horizontally through observation, not vertically through command. Love cannot do this. Love does not scale. Fear does. This is why institutions rely on consequence, not affection. This is why law outlasts charisma. This is why empires are built on discipline, not inspiration. Inspiration burns bright and fast. Fear endures quietly. The final mistake is believing fear corrupts the wielder. It does not. Indulgence does. Emotion does. Indecision does. Fear, properly applied, simplifies your role. You are no longer negotiating your worth. You are no longer managing everyone's feelings. You are no longer performing. You become still. And stillness is intimidating. Stillness signals certainty. Certainty signals preparation. Preparation signals options. Options are the foundation of power. Those with options do not plead. They do not rush. They do not explain. They wait. People sense this instinctively. The nervous system detects asymmetry before the intellect understands it. This is why some individuals command rooms without speaking. Their posture is not aggressive. Their energy is not loud. It is contained. Containment suggests control. Control suggests danger. This is the predator's advantage, not speed, not strength, awareness. The prey reveals itself through nervous movement. The predator conserves energy. In human terms, the one who reacts less controls more. Love encourages reaction. Fear encourages restraint. This is the ultimate inversion. The world tells you to open up, to be accessible, to be emotionally available. These traits make you visible. Visibility invites consumption. The world consumes what it can understand. What it cannot understand, it avoids. Fear preserves mystery. Mystery preserves distance. Distance preserves authority. Now you understand why Machiavelli's second law endures. Fear is not reliable because it is dark. It is reliable because it aligns with how humans actually behave, not how they wish they behaved. It respects biology. It respects incentive. It respects hierarchy. Love is a luxury of safety. Fear is the language of reality. If you are ready to stop being managed by other people's emotions, if you are ready to move through the world with clarity instead of confusion, then you already know what to do next. Those who seek dominance, precision, and control do not stumble into this knowledge by accident. They choose it, they recognize it, they claim it. This channel exists for those individuals.